This week's School for Writers book recommendation is The Parasol Protectorate. It's actually 5 books by Gail Carriger, and I completely devoured the whole series. I loved them on audiobook. I found myself taking 2-hour walks just so I could keep listening, completely obsessed. So here's the premise. You are in steampunky style Victorian, I think, or Elizabethan England, some kind of old England, which y'all know I'm not a big fan of historical fiction. So for me to be suggesting a historical fiction book is huge. So you're in that time and there are vampires and werewolves and witches type things. Y'all know I love those vampires, werewolves, and witches stories. And they are working together and they're like in their own little parliament and they work together and they have their own things, but they like hate each other still, but they're working together and they're like out. The world knows about them and they're fighting. And there's this one woman who's the main character, and if she touches people, it can make all their supernatural powers go away. And she falls in love with the werewolf and how that all happens and what that all happens. And it's like this whole combination of stories, and there's ancient Egyptians brought in and there's people from all over, and it's funny and it's quirky and it's got some cool steampunk elements of like fun examples of what kind of technology could have happened. And I don't know, it just took me into this fun, exciting world of the past that was, you know, queer positive and body positive and sex positive, and really, really kind of prim and proper in this fun way that they like make fun of themselves for. I loved it. I do have to say that because it's set in the past, there are some elements, like for example, people are like bringing artifacts back from Egypt. Not cool. Not cool at all, folks. Like totally imperialistic bullshit. And they don't really address that as a modern person, but you're set in the past, so they address it in some way, but it's not really like as much as I would like to. You know, some kind of something in the front of the book would be nice, saying, hey, we don't approve of this. I understand it's historical, and that's a really hard line to draw, but I kind of was there was a whole episode where they like whole part of the series where they're taking stuff back from Egypt, and that felt a little icky to me, a lot of icky to me. Even though it's historical and historically accurate, I wanted there to be some reflection on how wrong that was. So that was a problem I had with the series. I want to be honest about that. But other than that, I friggin' loved it. I loved it. I devoured it. I found myself listening. I loved the person who narrated it. Highly suggested an audiobook. And I found myself going on extra long walks just so I could listen. So once again, it's The Parasol Protectorate by Gail Carriger. It's a 5-part series, and I would say if you like steampunk at all, if you like werewolf, vampire type stuff at all, if you like fantasy at all, if you like historical fiction at all, if you like, it's a romance, but kind of more like fantasy than romance. It has a romance aspect to it. I just loved it. And I would say just go ahead and get yourself at least the first book on audiobook and then listen to them all. If you're going to grab it on audiobook, I highly suggest using our link to Libro.fm. Libro.fm is a great alternative to that big, giant Amazon-owned company that we know about that sells audiobooks. And it lets you keep the rights to your books so you can share them with friends. And when you buy it through an audiobook through Libro.fm, you choose a local independent bookstore to have your purchases go towards. So you're supporting local independent bookstores while buying audiobooks. I love it. We have a link in our show notes and in our bios on all over social media to have you get a free audiobook and we get a free audiobook. So go use that link if you're going to sign up for Libro.fm. We get an audiobook to review and you all get a free audiobook as well. And if you decide to get a physical copy, also we have a bookshop.org link. That's an affiliate link that supports the School for Writers podcast. And just like Libro.fm, bookshop.org allows you to support a local independent bookstore when you buy your book. So go support your local independent bookstores. It makes a huge difference in diversity out there. And grab yourself the whole series of The Parasol Protectorate by Gail Carriger.